And welcome to the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon to be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And if you think somebody may find this of interest, why don't you go ahead and click the share button and you can share it with them as well. So I'd like to speak about points needed to do, like a checklist, for helping out, for managing your aging parent money. Why do I bring this up now? Well, I have been to a couple of weddings recently. I've paid my respects to mourners recently. I've had numerous meetings recently, and this issue keeps coming up, right? Elderly parents, have hit the age. I know I look like I'm 25, but I just actually entered middle age. I guess depends how you define middle age. But I just entered middle age. And I guess as that happens, more and more of both friends and clients either have parents or they themselves are aging. And this has become a very big issue. It is probably something I speak about twice daily, literally. I'm not making that up. At least 2 times per day, I speak to people or about people who are getting older, dementia, Alzheimer's, stroke victims, spouses who had strokes, I should say. And, then the question is, what do I do? So I came across an article in the New York Times, which I'm going to use sort of as a springboard. It was written by Lisa Rabaska-Ropi. It says, nothing truly prepares you for the day you're sitting across from your aging parents trying to piece together a financial picture that they have spent a lifetime keeping private, right? We all know that, right? For many adult children, that conversation often comes too late, triggered by a diagnosis that changes everything. She says, mine came when we learned that my 86-year-old father had dementia. I was living 200 miles away from my parents. I'm an only child, and I had no idea if they had enough money to pay for a home health aide and memory care. I knew that my father had a pension, that he and my mother collected Social Security, and that they had a generous health insurance policy. I knew nothing more, she writes. Eventually, my mother revealed something big. She had managed to sock away $500,000. When my parents sold their house in Long Island and moved to a 55-plus community in New Jersey in 1998, she realized their tax bill had plunged. She opened a money market account and saved the difference every month, and she managed to put away $500,000. She continues, her financial discipline floored me. I stopped worrying about paying for their care, and I started planning for them to move to a senior living community a mile from my home. But I skipped the most important step. Instead of asking my mother what she wanted, I told her what she needed. That mistake shut down our conversation. Experts who work with aging parents and their adult children say this is one of the most common mistakes that children make, treating their parents' crisis as a problem to solve, right? You have to lead with love, with caring, and not with force. That's what I would say. So here are a couple of ways that children can start getting the handle on their elderly or their aging parents' finances. Number one is to talk. Now, it's probably the hardest thing. She says parents often hesitate to talk with their adult children about their finances, but that's not always because of distrust or secrecy. So to Ashley Kwame, a financial therapist and founder of Beyond the Plan in Augusta, Georgia, the underlying thought is often, if I admit I need help, then I'm admitting I'm declining, right? So it's coming actually from the side of the parents. They don't necessarily want to talk because it's an admission that they're getting old for all intents and purposes. So she says it's essential to start these conversations before a crisis hits, particularly if you're noticing a change in parents' health. It's not a simple conversation to have. There are financial planners out there who maintain that you should have that conversation years, even decades before. I'm not one of them. I think it's a little bit morbid, personally. And you have to really, really tread gingerly if you're going to have that conversation. What I strongly encourage, and this is old-fashioned, it'll be good for the parents out there, for the elderly out there, but you need to know what your parents have. Their parents can do a huge favor if they just take a piece of paper, right? They write down the name of their accountant, the name of their lawyer, the account number, the contact person for each pension fund, for each brokerage account, for each bank account that they own. Do they own property? Write down the address, where it is, who's dealing with it, if there's a property management company involved. Write everything down and then give that to the kids. Now, you don't have to write down there what your balances are necessarily. You might want to if you get older, but just as a primer almost to start the process, I think it's a great idea. And if tragedy strikes unexpectedly, they will have all of the information needed in order to tend to either the fact that you're incapacitated and you're no longer able to manage things, or God forbid you passed away and then it's too late and then they've got to try and recreate everything. That's where it gets super, super tricky. So that's step number one, having a decision. Let's just call it communication. It can come in many forms, right? Talking, like I suggest, also writing things down. Number two is trying to get a handle on the budget that they're living on, right? It's not such a simple thing, and they may not be so quick to open things up to you because they might not want to know where they're spending money. But at some point, you're going to have to do that. And why is it important? Because that's going to help you sort of figure out what they're going to need going forward when they're no longer able to manage it themselves. So you have to sort of know, right? If you just try to guesstimate what that number is, right, and then you've got to account to supplement their fixed income and their Social Security, what have you, you may be way off. Okay, so it's really, really important to have that information. Number three is something we've spoken about a lot. Have some type of access to their account. Now, it might come in multiple forms simultaneously. It could be that you get login information so that you can access the accounts. For people who do it yourself, that way you can transfer money for them or what have you. At least see what they have. Also, almost as a supervisor to make sure that they're not being taken, in some kind of senior fraud type of thing, right? That there's not a bunch of trading going on in their accounts that shouldn't be, that's unnecessary, and to make sure that they're not doing anything silly with their money. So you're sort of sitting on top, making sure things are doing what they should be doing, and that's important access. But there's another point of access, and that's to be on the account one way or another, okay? There are those who say, be an account holder. There are those to say you should get some kind of, we call it like a limited, a trading authority, right? Where you can act on behalf, you have signing authority on the account, but you're not an account holder. That can help, right? Because as an account holder, there's certain obligations that you might have. There's certain maybe potential tax ramifications. Whereas if you are, like I said, a trading, you have trading authorization, or you can move money. You have check writing privileges. All those types of things come without the same level of obligation or exposure, let's say, on your side. So that's also really important, because if they become incapacitated and there is no one who has access to the account, or nobody who can actually has real access, who can make trades, who can move money, then that money is as good as frozen. And that's at the time where they're going to need it the most. So I can't urge enough. If I was ranking these 5 things that I'm going to tell you, or 4 things, whatever the number is, I lost track, that would be number 1. Vitally important to have somebody else with access, literal access to the account, so that in the case, unfortunate case of where you're becoming incapacitated, that somebody can access the money. The next thing is a durable power of attorney, which is a legal document that empowers a trusted person to make both financial and healthcare decisions on your behalf if you are alive but incapacitated. We just spoke about that. It's really, really important. People know about healthcare powers of attorney, but that doesn't allow you to do anything financial. So you really, really need both, because like I said, this is the time where you most need it. And then the last thing is also really, really important, and that's to make sure that everything is current, that your wills are current, that beneficiaries are current, right? That could be if a spouse dies, okay, that you change your beneficiaries. Maybe one of your kids got divorced, and you want to make sure, that the ex doesn't have exposure to it. All kinds of things. You want to go over your estate plan, go over your will, check retirement accounts and what have you, wherever you stuck beneficiaries, and make sure they're current. Maybe you forgot somebody. Maybe you started some kind of an insurance policy when you were in your late 20s and you ended up having 2 more children, and you want to make sure that they have access, that they also get that money. So you want to add them as beneficiaries. In fact, there was a study by Fidelity that found only 70% of parents feel confident about their will and estate plan. Now, that might be good. That's a pretty good number, but that also means that 30% don't. That's a lot of people also, right? So you don't want to fall into that situation. You really, really want to make sure that all accounts, wills, beneficiaries are up to date as well. Very, very important, because you want to make sure ultimately that the money that you are going to be bequeathing, that you're going to be leaving as an inheritance, goes to the people you actually want to receive it. I have a case where somebody got divorced and they never changed the beneficiary on their retirement account. Now, I happen to know that the surviving spouse is aware of that, so they never said anything. But the other person, out to lunch, never made the change. Okay, do you really want that to happen? I don't think so. I don't think that that's where that person wants their inheritance going. So like I said, you want to make, that goes for somebody, doesn't even have to be for elderly parents, right? Always from time to time, make sure that the beneficiaries on your accounts are current. Okay, these are some tips that can help you with, if you have to start dealing with aging parents. You've been tuning into the Aaron Katsman Show. We speak to you about your life and money and your investments. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And if you think somebody may find this of interest, why don't you go ahead and click the share button, and you can share it with them as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.